Hey YouTube, so let me just say that it is hot as all get out right now. I am in the shade, but I still feel like I'll probably have some sweaty moments. So let's just get through this as soon as possible. I made notes this time, so maybe it'll go a little smoother. So let's talk about Mad Men last night. It was a weird, funny, kind of dark, kind of I don't know, it was a good episode. It kept me, I was into it the whole time, so that's always a good sign. So, let's just talk about Don first. And like I told you a couple videos ago, that he gets so obsessed with these women. So, we know that Sylvia, we know her name now, pretty much cut the brakes on the whole affair last week. And Don can't get over it. So at the beginning, he's like just listening to her, fight with her husband over the phone from the hallway, and he's smoking and he's leaving all these butts there. And basically Sylvia calls him later at work and tells him, stop it. Stop obsessing over me. This is over. She made a good point and said that at one point you were in love with Megan too, which I take to mean like, Don, you are obsessive like this all the time. So, just think about that. Anyway, he doesn't deal with it well, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So, the episode started with Kenny Cosgrove. He's an accounts man. And I guess he's driving the Chevy account guys around, and they're horsing around, and he gets in an accident. But nobody at the agency cares. They just care about what Chevy said about, I guess, their campaigns that they came up with. And Kenny Cosgrove is just basically saying that they didn't like the ideas and that they need more ideas come Monday. So basically everybody has to work through the weekend. Now here's the weird thing. The guy who is like the Sterling of the company that they merged with, he brings in his doctor and he gives everybody a shot that's supposed to be like, it's probably like B12 or something like that, which they talk about now, but I don't know, the effects seem to be very psychedelic, and so everybody's just kind of like full of energy, doing crazy stuff. Like Kenny Cosgrove is tap dancing while he's talking to Don, and Stan, I don't know his name. What's his name? He's that guy that was married to Lisa Rinna for a while. Are they still married? But he was like in Knots Landing or something. He was in those 80s primetime soaps, but I forget his name, Harry something. But anyway, they're racing. So it's just all fun and games. It made for some funny moments, I would agree. But it was just weird. Like, who does that? Who just injects their employees with anonymous crap? That was weird. But, it kept the ball rolling for the creative ideas, and everybody was all up and blah, 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 blah. There was a moment with Peggy and Stan, which, if you go on the IMDb boards, a lot of people have been wanting that hookup to happen for a while. And, he was just vulnerable. He said that his 20-year-old cousin died in Vietnam, and it was crazy, and he just needed some company, blah, 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 blah. And they had a nice conversation. It was really sweet. But pretty much that was it with that. And getting back to Don, his B12 energy shot, is almost like the episode last season when Sterling took the LSD. He's stopping to think about stuff, and then the next thing he knows is a day later or a couple hours later. But basically, it seemed like throughout this whole episode that Don was really inspired to do a great campaign for Chevy. But when he presented his idea to Peggy, it seemed like, well, she said it. She's like, have you been working on the Chevy account at all? And it seemed to me that he was basically just thinking of ways to get back into Sylvia's pants, thinking of something to say to get him back in her good graces. And and everything. Also with Don, he was having these flashbacks of him in the whorehouse. Looked like he might have been like 14 or 13 or something like that. But basically he had a bit of the virus, some sort of virus infection, whatever. And this little whore kind of took him under, let him stay in her room. And clearly the girl had a baby. And so, nursing him back to health was kind of like her motherly feeling, motherly instinct. And then later on in the flashbacks, you see that it is found that she takes his virginity and is eventually like kicked out of the brothel. And, when Don's guardian, his stepmother or whatever, finds out, she beats him. So I don't know, I took that as, maybe he, can only let his feelings for women go so far because he feels like he's going to get a negative repercussion if he lets it go any longer or something like that. I don't know. That's just what I'm putting into it. But basically, the episode was funny. It was fun. It was interesting. It was psychedelic. But then there was a kind of scary, intense part where Sally and all the Draper kids are staying at the apartment, and Donna's just totally oblivious. Megan is like, I have to go to some kind of party, and meet some producers or whatever. So she has no choice but to leave the kids by themselves. And later in that night, a black woman is in the house claiming that she, raised Don Draper and I'm your grandma, all this stuff. And Sally's smart. She's not a complete idiot. So she calls the cops, and the lady ends up just leaving. I guess she probably stole Don's watches and as much as she could probably get her hands on and fit in her bag. But that part was very intense. It was kind of scary because you didn't know what this lady was going to do, or if she came with more people or what. But one part was really funny when little Bobby came out, and she was like, I'm your grandma. And then later he's like, are we Negroes? That was funny. But in the end, Don finally comes home. Betty and Henry Francis are there. Betty is pissed off, and Betty's blonde again. I guess she changed her hair color because Harry's campaigning. I don't know. But she's pissed, understandably. And then, he goes back into the office and he tells Ted that... Oh, I should say something about Ted, too. Ted was really close to the other partner at the old company, and that guy died of cancer. So, he was not really in it that much. But then at the end, when Don came in and told him that he was only going to evaluate the creative, he wasn't going to be part of the creative, because he feels like they've done too much for Chevy already and they should be able to make up their mind. So he's just gonna walk away from it, like he does everything that gets hard, and he made a comment, every time we get a car, this place turns into a whorehouse. And I didn't really correlate that with what was going on. I didn't know what kind of point he was making, but at the end of the day, he walked away from something when it got too hard. So I'm not even going to say it, but it was a good episode of Mad Men. I enjoyed it, and I even watched it late and stayed up for it, so that's a good sign. So, yeah, another Mad Men review down. Bye, YouTube. Yeah.